Hey, welcome back to the Dynasty Football Key. Hey, it's Sunday. Got another awesome week in the NFL ahead. So, if you got any questions for your start sit advice, let me know. It's been a fun week. Shout out to all the team over at Player Profiler, really putting in a lot of work. We're going to be using some of the rankings, and tomorrow's show, we're going to have Evan Ringler on the Dynasty stock market, and he's going to be breaking down how all of these stats that we're going to be using today, how they're formulated, what goes into it, and some of his Dynasty opinions and things like that. So Evan Ringler, the guy who makes these rankings amongst a lot of the other folks, the stats behind it, he'll be on the show. But wanted to go through some of the inactives first. So to start off, we got this 1 p.m. slated games already. I got some announcements here. So for fantasy, no Trevor Lawrence, no Tank Bigsby. So going to be tough for those guys. But Brian Thomas Jr., he'll be in there. He'll be healthy, ready to go. O-line's a little banged up, but hopefully Mac Jones can get it done, get him the ball a little bit. Him and Evan Ingram are going to be some of your top targets there. And in that same game, we got Sam Laporta on the other side. He's going to be missing. Kind of a slow start to the season. Have been having a couple good games. I think he had 3 good games, but now he's injured. We'll see if he can come back next week. So you're not going to have him. That'll be more Jameson Williams, who's had been coming back from that suspension. So look to get him in the lineup. And guys, if you got any questions, throw them in the chat. We'll go to the rankings here in a moment. And again, going to have Evan Ringler, the guy who's behind the stats here. He's going to be on the show tomorrow. All right. And then we've got Raiders, Dolphins. Dylan Lobby's out. Harrison Bryant's out. Everyone else should be healthy, ready to go. Dolphins, we got Jeff Wilson out and D Jackson. That's it. So pretty much everyone's healthy in that game. I think we could get some points actually scored here. I had projected Dolphins winning it though. All right, then we'll move on to the Rams. We've got none of the receivers banged up, thankfully. So I think for the most part for fantasy, we're kind of safe here. Patriots, Osborne has been playing. He's actually been kind of a player coach this season. So shout out to him. But for the most part, this should be a healthy matchup. It was great to have Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp healthy. Now we've got Browns, Saints. Saints defense hasn't been great. So I think, guys, just before I get too far ahead, I will say this is that one Nick Chubb week that we've been waiting for. And I think this might be the only Nick Chubb week that we get this season. All of the matchups after this are pretty tough after this. So you're going to want to get Nick Chubb in your lineup. If not now, then when? Even though he should keep getting healthier, but he's been averaging 14 carries per game since he's gotten back. So, shout out to Tales from the Geek. He's healthy, so get him in there. And then on the Saints side, Jamal Williams out, and we know Kendra Miller's on IR, so that's going to be a big workload for Alvin Kamara. With adding in the receiving game, no one's healthy. So whoever is healthy is going to get a ton of targets. And then Ravens, Steelers, division game. This one's going to be for the battle for first place in that division. So we've got, I'm feeling pretty good about Ravens, but really statistically, Steelers always win at home when they're the underdog, and they are the underdog in this spot by, I believe, 2.5. So smart money would be to bet on Steelers just for what it's worth. But Ravens, Devontae Walker's out, but we got Deontay Johnson in there. Rasheen Ali is also recently was announced out, so not going to have him. But they did get Keaton Mitchell back, so they're fine. And Steelers, I don't see Jaylen Warren on here, so that's good. That's good for him and Najee. They're both healthy. Warren almost had a big game, but fell short and fumbled. So we'll see if they keep him in the doghouse like they did for the rest of the game, or if it's split workload. All right, now we got Vikings at Titans. So everyone's healthy there. There's fantasy relevant for the Vikings. And I would say the same for the Titans. So expect another big Calvin Ridley game. Levis should be looking to throw it all over the place. Cedric Gray out of Texas. No, I got him on my IDP league. Hopefully he gets healthy. All right, Colts. We got Anthony Richardson back. This is going to be fun. This is a big make it or break it type week for him. Jets are a reeling team. If Colts could get a win here, it'd be a great bounce back for Anthony Richardson. But for the most part, everyone involved here is healthy. So that'll do it for the injury report. And we'll jump into the rankings here. I'll start with the quarterbacks because it'll be quick. And we'll just say whether or not we agree with some of these rankings. And real quick, got a question. Hope so, for my dynasty's sake, for Anthony Richardson, I believe. So, yeah, we need Richardson to bounce back. And so we've got Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, who already played. He's been having a good bounce back, getting those rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen, these are all the top rushers. Jaden Daniels did not get there, unfortunately. But Brock Purdy should have a good game. Herbert's been playing well. And Russell Wilson at the 7th spot. I've seen the numbers. I actually just traded for Russell Wilson. So, yeah, get him in your lineup, especially with all of these buys right now. All right, Joe Burrow, he's been great. I probably would have him over Russell Wilson, especially because T. Higgins is coming back. Got a question from Tyler Sperry. Start Dell or Judy or Downs? So the thumbnail of the show is Josh Downs. But before I answer the question, I will say, we got Anthony Richardson to contend with there. So a little bit scary, but the last game Richardson did play, Downs had a great performance. He's had some other dead games with Richardson. All of the games with Flacco have been great, but Dell has not been great with Nico and Diggs in the lineup. We haven't seen him just with Nico this season, but last year Dell was really good in the points per game aspect when it was him and Nico Collins. And then you got Jerry Jeudy, who's getting a ton of targets. So this is a great question of who you want to start here. Jameis Winston has the highest pass volume of all three of the quarterbacks related to these receivers, with 41 and 45 attempts. So you're going to get that. There's basically 4 receivers that are getting the ball. Is the tight end, Njoku. You got Jeudy, Elijah Moore, and obviously Cedric Tillman, who's been great. All of them have been basically getting 10 targets a game. So I just see that continuing now that Amari Cooper's long gone. So I'm actually going to take Jeudy here at the 1 spot. Then I would take the shot on Downs after that, and then it would be Dell. But I am very close watching this Dell situation because this could be exactly back to the 2023 Tank Dell, where he was good as that number 2 option behind Collins. Whereas when Dell this season was the number 2 behind Diggs is just a different receiver. He wasn't getting a lot of yardage. He was getting more touchdown type stuff. Whereas Nico is absolutely just putting defenders on notice, and they're all over Nico Collins. So just really open things up for Dell. So we're going to be watching Dell closely this game. I think he could have one of his better games. But when Dell was the number 1 by himself, he had that one game, but he's not really a number 1. So I'm excited to see what Dell does this week. But I'm going with Jeudy. I feel like he's got a locked in target share. With Downs, the Anthony Richardson quarterback change is just too much to want to trust week 1. Let's see how that goes first. All right, Alex comes in here. Pick 1. All right, super flex between Jonnu Smith, Mac Jones. Let's go over to the tight ends. Jonnu Smith, Mac Jones. Oh, and I'm sorry, real quick, Tyler Sperry. Just so you guys know, I'll have Evan Ringler on, the guy who makes these stats, tomorrow. And just for what it's worth, we can see where he's got some of these players. So he's got Downs at 28, Tank Dell at 29. And where did he have Jeudy? So he had Jeudy at 33. So all pretty close to projections. 13.7 for Downs and Dell, and 11.4 for Jeudy. But this New Orleans defense is pretty awful. Dallas, they've got their cornerbacks. Jets, we know they've got their cornerbacks. It just depends if Gardner's on Pittman or not. I'm going with Jerry Jeudy in this spot, though. But just for what it's worth, that's where they've got those guys. And I'll show the tight ends or John. Okay, so you're deciding if you want to even put Mac Jones in to begin with. Yeah, it was a rough last week for Mac Jones. Jonnu looks so athletic. If you saw him in that last game, guy looks great. The problem is historically Tua doesn't target the tight ends. Still, right now, since coming back from the injury, Tua is playing kind of a different ball game. Not waiting as long for Tyreek Hill to get open, even though he can get open quickly. Uh, he has been giving the ball to Jonnu Smith a lot more, and yeah, Mac Jones feels pretty rough. They had an 11.5 projection for Jonnu Smith there. Mac Jones 12.2. So really not a big difference in the projection there. Detroit, they've shut down more prepared quarterbacks for this situation. So I don't know. I think you kind of have to go with Mac Jones. But the problem is with the Patriots, we've seen Mac Jones have these 3-point games and games in that range. So I feel good about Jonnu as a player. He's not necessarily a top target in that offense. In the last game, Jonnu fell 1 yard short of a touchdown. So I'm just going to say Jonnu Smith for this one. Normally, you want to play quarterback in your super flex spot, but I get it. It's rough. And you got the tight end premium here. And just a one extra, it looks like, point boost for the passing quarterbacks. But that's not enough because we don't know if he's going to even get that. So I'll go Jonnu here. I'm pretty scared about that one. So good luck, Alex. All right, Ridley, Brian Thomas Jr., Reed, Nakua, Harris from Aaron. Which three would you pick to play this week? Ridley is the only target in town, so I'm going with him. Nakua, I'm locking him in for the rest of the season. And Reed, he's got the potentially, top quarterback out of all of these guys. And Reed's been good, so I'm rocking with Reed. Those three, Ridley, Reed, Nakua. But I'll pull up what Evan Ringler in the games got over a player profiler for that ranking. So Nakua at 20. And Cooper at 10. They got Cooper at 16 and Nakua at 15. So not even too far apart between them. But let's go find Ridley at 23, Nakua at 20. And I went, I'm Reed at 26, not too bad. So 20, 23, 26, 15 points, almost 14 points for Reed. That's pretty good. So some good options there. I'm good with all of those. With Harris, Jaylen Warren will be playing, so he always limits the upside a little bit. And again, he did fumble in this last game, so it potentially could be in the doghouse. But we see a lot of times they handle it in that same game, and he did get benched the rest of that game, so they may move on, and on to the next type of thing. All right, so yeah, those are the three I would go with. Some great options. I want to put Brian Thomas Jr. in my lineup, but he just hasn't been the same since Trevor Lawrence is out. Luckily, it looks like Lawrence could be back in a couple weeks. So just hang tight, weather the storm there, and hopefully Mac Jones can actually get the ball to him. But Brian Thomas Jr. had a lot of big plays, and that's not really Mac Jones's game, unfortunately. And yeah, Alex says he's going with Smith. All right, good luck. He looks great. He looks a lot leaner too than in past years. He's always been like a muscle freak, but now he looks just like really fast, and Tua needs that. Tua cannot afford any hits. All right, so guys, let me know if you got any questions. And again, the stats from here, we're gonna have one of the brains behind them on the show, Dynasty Stock Market, tomorrow. Sorry, I said tomorrow. I've been saying tomorrow, so Tuesday actually is when we have Dynasty Stock Market. Evan Ringler will be on that one. All right, so let's go back to quarterbacks. We go with all the rushing QBs, and I believe I stopped right at Joe Burrow. So Bo Nix, he has been a really great rookie for us this season, so glad he's been stepping up there. Geno Smith recently made a trade for him. He's got a bit of a tough matchup. We haven't seen the Niners be as tough recently. I don't know what just happened here, but yeah, really, I think Geno can get it done against the Niners. So I'm not too worried about it. We've got DK Metcalf making his first game back in a while, so that's going to be really huge for DK Metcalf. So go ahead and fire up Geno Smith. Yep, it's that time. Everyone's trying to get their rankings done and starting to glitch out over here. Let's see if I can pull up NFL Pro. But yeah, let's go with him. I believe next was Mahomes. You know, Mahomes has been having a little bit of a down performance, and even though he hasn't been giving us the rushing upside, it's still a guy that the team continues to just try to throw solutions at problems. You know, whether there's an injury, they bring in Hopkins. You know, they soon they're going to have Isaiah Pacheco back. I don't believe he's been activated from his 21-day window. So, but this is going to be a nice shootout between the Chiefs and the Bills. So we're going to be looking for Mahomes to try to put the team on his back here. I actually think he could have a really good game because he's going to have to pass against this Bills team that, even though they are injured, they're at home, they've been playing well, and they still have. Even if Amari Cooper does not play, Khalil Shakir is there to pick up some of the slack. They've got James Cook and Ray Davis. A lot of injuries for the Bills, though, so I still pick the Chiefs in this spot. Okay, so we got the rankings back up. Wow, Mahomes is a lot further than I thought. He was at 16. So they had May at 11, which I'm good with. May's been great. The rushing kind of tailed back a little bit, so I want to see more of that. But I also like seeing him focus on passing as well. Jordan Love is going to have a tough matchup here against Chicago. He's just got so many weapons. Stroud out. You know, he's going up against this Dallas team that on the surface looks bad, but really it's the offense is bad. The defense, they're getting healthy. I'm not really looking for Stroud to go off, but he does have Nico Collins coming back, so that's something I'll be watching. But I'd still probably start Mahomes over him in this spot. Jared Goff. You know, there's a lot of people I think could outscore Stroud this week. He just needs some more touchdowns. He has not been able to get those. So we're going on to Tua, and really, guys, since Richardson's right here, this is one where in some leagues where he was available, if you're not going to start him, then you know I don't know what you're doing, man. Because right now he's in a do or die situation. This is a game where he has to have a big one. I think he can go off here. Jets, they're kind of reeling a little bit. I think he's going to have to play it safe to a certain degree and not just try to air it out and get picked off. So I can see a lot of him just doing what gets some good, easy yards, rushing the ball, dumping it off. They're going to be feeding Jonathan Taylor a lot, and I can see some goal line opportunities. Jets have been a little bit worse than what we wanted coming into the year, but if he does throw it, you're going to be happy you started the Jets defense. I just think they're going to play a little bit more of a conservative ball game here to try to win it. So yeah, let's move on to Darnold, Goff. Darnold's going up against a tough Tennessee defense. I'll probably fade him a little bit here. Still would take Goff over him, take Winston over him in an easy matchup. Rodgers should bounce back from that 4-point game that he had. That was pretty brutal. But he's not going to have two of those in a row. The rest of the season, he's had all double-digit games. Stafford versus New England, he's got all his weapons. I could see a couple touchdowns there. It's just usually that's the max for Stafford. We don't see a lot of 3-touchdown games. Derek Carr is going to have a tough matchup here. Same with Kirk Cousins. We're a little bit worried about Drake London in this spot going up against Patrick Surtain. Caleb Williams needs a get-right game, but the Green Bay defense is good. So a lot of these I'm pretty good with. And, yeah, at the end, these are guys you just don't want to start. Minnesota's basically the number one defense. Will Levis, he'll throw some picks. He can make up for it just in volume of throwing for fantasy, but this is going to be rough. All right, we'll move on. Guys, let me know if you got any questions in the chat. And again, the guy who is making these rankings, part of the team, this is from Player Profiler. He'll be on the show Tuesday for Dynasty Stock Market. We'll ask him what kind of goes into the stats and stuff here, so you guys can check it out. But also, he's got his own show, Stat Masters, on Player Profiler News, so check that out as well. All right, running backs, Christian McCaffrey. We're glad to have him back. And last game, only 37 yards, 39 yards, something like that, but still had decent fantasy performance. And they gave him kind of his normal workload, so it doesn't seem like he's limited in that way. So I'm firing him up everywhere. We know that already, but just because we haven't had McCaffrey to talk about all season, figured I'd touch on it real quick. It doesn't really matter the ranking of these guys. You're starting Chan, Kamara, Walker, Bijan Robinson with that great game last week. Joe Mixon actually, I'd probably move ahead of, at least to 4. Probably the Dallas run game hasn't been great. So he could eat here. Jahmyr Gibbs at 7. Barkley, he already did his thing. He's going to finish higher than a lot of these guys. Kyron Williams, Derrick Henry, we're good with that. Chase Brown, that's awesome. Man, I sent out an offer of a first-round pick for Chase Brown. Got denied. That hurt in Dynasty. Okay, Brees Hall. Actually sent it to the FF Dynasty, and I'll be on their show later this evening breaking down this week's slate of games. So check that out. If you're a Patreon member over there or not, go subscribe. I'll be on their Patreon show tonight. All right, and then we've got Brees Hall looking for a bounce back there. Sometimes the bounce back doesn't just come out of thin air, though, guys. Since Davante Adams has been there, a lot of those targets that Brees Hall might have gotten are going to Davante Adams. So, not looking as good for Hall. Jonathan Taylor, in that same game, he'll probably outproduce Brees Hall. So I would have him over Hall here. David Montgomery is good for 10 to 15 points, something like that. In this matchup, give both the running backs in this game 20 points. Aaron Jones, hopefully he's healthy. It's going to be a little bit of a tough matchup, but if they get the lead, they'll get the volume. However, that might just go to Cam Akers to keep Aaron Jones a little healthy. So I would have Josh Jacobs ahead of Aaron Jones this week. Chicago's allowing 87 yards per game to running backs, which isn't the most or anything, but that's something that Jacobs should be locked in to get. So for a middle RB2 here, I'll take that plus whatever he may get if they have the lead and can add on top of that 87 yards. So he's at least good for 8 points. And I think he can get a touchdown because all the running backs behind him are injured. So he should get a huge workload. Josh Jacobs at 16, J.K. Dobbins 17. Cincinnati defense should be easy to run on them. It just depends if they have the lead and they're trying to pass more. So there's a little bit of risk that they're behind in this game. Just since Bengals average way more points than the Chargers do. All right, we've got DeAndre Swift. Usually got a decent little floor there. Kareem Hunt I would have over him, though. Even though I did say that the Chiefs would be passing more, I still think Hunt could be getting dump-offs or just involved as they have been using him, which is a ton. So Hunt I would definitely have over at least Swift and probably Aaron Jones and definitely over Montgomery. So, yeah, I'd probably have Hunt at like 14 in this ranking. So if it was me, James Cook would have higher as well. So both the backs in that game. Pollard was dealing with the nagging injury, but it looks like he's back and fine. Just going to be, can they really be running against this tough defense? We saw the Jags hanging them in with them last week, but that was more Darnold's fault. All right, Etienne's got no competition with Tank Bigsby behind him, so he should have an okay game. Still a tough matchup, and they're not expected to be running the ball a lot because they will be losing. Najee Harris, little bit of upside loss with Warren being active, but still, he's been good this year. So I like Najee. Ravens have not been a great defense overall. And then Chubb, like I said, this is the Chubb week. Bad defense, opponent over here. This is the week Chubb goes off. He's going to get 14 carries minimum. And since he's getting healthier, they're coming out of a bye week. Maybe he gets more. And if they are in the lead, he definitely gets more because they want this guy to go off at least once. So let's do it. Rico Dowdle recently named the for sure starter. Dallas had been saying it's more of a committee all season, but this week they just made a point to say, "Hey, Rico Dowdle's our starter." So tough matchup. Not going to have a lead, but take that for what it's worth. Alexander Madison, kind of a drop back since they said Zamir White would be more involved. They are coming off of a bye week as well, so maybe they figure out that was the wrong move and they go back to Madison. But this is a kind of a lost season for those guys. So running back wise, you don't want either one. And Audric Estime I would have much higher because he became basically the starter this past week. Got the majority of the touches. His 14 carries to Javonte Williams' 1 carry. Start Audric Estime in the flex. Okay, Eckler already played. He had like about 16. Tales from the Geek with the question. I've got a line of sight on the playoffs. Nice. Defense is the Bills, but they play the Chiefs this week. Would you try to stream Rams D or just sit the Bills? Yeah, I would stream the Rams defense against the Patriots. That's what I'm doing. I picked them up in a league where I already had 2 defenses and I like this matchup. I'm a little worried about Drake May, unfortunately, as far as the defense is concerned for the Rams, but yeah, I am doing that. So I'm hoping it works. I got my fingers crossed. But yeah, go ahead and do it. It's the Rams matchup. So the Rams only got to worry about Stevenson, May, and kind of the assortment of receivers. It's like Kayshon Boutte, is their lead guy, Demario Douglas. It's not a hard guard for the defense. Your rookie quarterback's gonna throw probably 1 interception or fumble. So it's a good matchup, and just can't tell if you're having to drop. Oh God, yep, I see. That's exactly what my next question was. Should I drop the Bills though? Yeah. So yeah, and that spot defense is just week to week. You got to win the matchup. That's really more important. I think the Rams are going to be a better play. Now the Chiefs haven't been amazing, as far as scoring points, but it's still pretty tough to want to play against Patrick Mahomes. And then I can try to pull this up quickly. I don't know how quickly I can do it. I'll try to do it off to the side, but I can look at the points against for some of these defenses and get back to you. But right now, Bills, just for what they've been doing on their own, I've seen other defenses ranked similarly that are available. So, the other thing is I like to drop players that I'm not going to use this week if they have a bye the next week. The Bills have a bye next week. So it's just one of those things where you got the Chiefs now, then a bye week, and then after that they have to play against the San Francisco 49ers. Then they play against the Rams. Then they play against the Detroit Lions, which is the number 1 offense in the league. All of those are some of the top, or at least top 10 offenses. But then they end up playing the Patriots week 16 and the Jets week 17. I just don't think you'll have a tough time getting them back. And ultimately, they haven't scored a ton of points. So I would drop Bills right now and pick up the Rams and just stream defense. All right, Aiden. And I'll just finish down with 14 teams, so defense is a little more scarce. Yeah, but I think after that schedule, looking at that schedule, I'm fine with it. All right, Aiden says Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson, Tillman, pick 2. I'll go to the receiver spot. He meant to say CD instead of that second. Garrett Wilson, Hill, Wilson, CD, Tillman. Thank you. So I'll get CD locked in there. We've seen this backup quarterback get CD the ball plenty in the past, so I'm fine with it. I'll take CD Lamb and I'll take Garrett Wilson here. I like the target share that Garrett Wilson has been getting. Some of these past games haven't lived up to that one huge game that he had. That's not going to happen all the time, but Rodgers had a really bad game this past week. But I will say what Evan Ringler's got for these rankings. We'll have him on the show Tuesday. So Garrett Wilson, he's got an 8. Tyreek Hill at 9. CD Lamb, let's see where they got Lamb. 21, and then Tillman not too far behind that at 25. So they would go Garrett Wilson, Hill, then Lamb, then Cedric Tillman. So I'm gonna watch this question over the course of today, and I'm gonna ask Evan, how do you justify lowering CeeDee Lamb so much? Because I think the target's going to be there. It's just, and I'm aware of this particular quarterback since this is my team. So let's see if this is a little biased or not. But I do know that this guy can get CeeDee Lamb the ball. He had 4 games of starts in the past and he won all those games with CeeDee Lamb. We know he can get him the ball. It was just he wasn't prepared for this last game, first game with Dak down. I wonder if part of the calculus is how much does Trey Lance end up playing, because I was projecting Trey Lance would get some action here. So if that happens, then the accuracy just falls into the tubes. Tillman is tearing it up. Yeah, he is tearing it up. And I had mentioned earlier in the show how Jameis Winston in the past 2 games, 41 attempts, 45 attempts. And just keep in mind, the quarterback before him had only had 1 game in the 40 attempt range. So Winston just out completely changing the Browns' overall pass volume. So all of these, the top 4 receivers are getting at almost minimum 10 targets a game. So there's just so much action to be had. You got some good options here. Like what? What do you want me to say? Start Tillman, and you got Tyreek Hill, who on any given play could go off. But I'm not starting Hill because I haven't seen it, and he's dealing with a wrist injury. So it's like we haven't seen it, and Tua has been playing. So now you're just praying for this to be that game of old. So I'm not starting Hill for that reason. I would say Tillman may have the most consistent quarterback play almost at this point. But he has the most target competition, Tillman does. Let's just be honest. He has David Njoku. He's got Elijah Moore. We can pull it up. Let's just go ahead and pull it up because he's got the hardest path. It's just he's been playing very well. Like, we all get it. All those guys are great. And I'm not even remotely doubting that Tillman is a guy, right? Like, I'm not even going there and saying, well, really, CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill are amazing, and you know what I mean. Oh wait, they didn't play last week, so we'll go to week 9. And I see you just dropped another question there. Let me pull this up. So over here for the Browns, 11 targets for Tillman, 11 targets for Judy, 7 targets for Njoku, 9 for Elijah Moore. I mean, that's a lot. And yes, the yardage was there for him and Judy. He got the touchdown. Let me read. I'll read this off for you, Aiden. So Trady Gibbs for Hill and Chase Brown. I like that because Chase Brown's going to outscore Gibbs. So yeah, and then you get a free Hill. So why not? Yeah. A lot of times you just want to be able to capture that outlier week. So that's why sometimes people are fine like having just Gibbs if they like if it was a trade where someone was getting Saquon Barkley and giving up Chase Brown and Hill, that's different because Barkley is going to get this massive workload, but Gibbs is not getting that massive workload, sharing it with Montgomery. So yeah, that was a good trade because Brown has no one to share the workload with, regardless if they added Khalil Herbert. Anyway, yeah, tough. I know, tough call, man. I do like that trade, but this is a great matchup against the Saints. It's just one of those situations where it's why I'm calling the Nick Chubb having a good game because they're not going to have to throw the ball a ton. This is in theory a Jameis Winston revenge game against the Saints, where he played last season. But he doesn't need to put the ball in harm's way. They just need to walk out of here with the win. If they can get that early lead, Saints have nobody other than Kamara. So all they have to do is get an early lead, the Browns that is, and they can just run the ball. So that's part of my thinking. It's going to be more low volume, but it is an easy matchup. So good luck. Again, I'm going with CeeDee Lamb and Garrett Wilson here. But yeah, more about just no competition for Lamb, no competition for, or only one other person for Wilson to contend with, only one other person for Hill to contend with, but Hill's got the injury. We just haven't seen him actually do it recently. Okay, Chubb game. Yeah, of course. And by the way, guys, Chubb is, I think he might be done. Like, I'm not saying Chubb's amazing. This is just an easy matchup for Chubb. This is going to be his only good game. Sorry. I love Nick Chubb, but I think the juice is gone. All right. So we pretty much got through the receivers there. We got 30 minutes till kickoff. Just so you guys can see it, we'll skip through here a little. I see the Smitty in the chat. Guys, definitely get Jack Smith and Jigba in your lineup if you're wondering. The Smitty. All right. 4-6, need a win, out for the playoffs, can't lose. 2 QB league, Superflex, May or Stafford, start to Ramondre, Chase Brown, Monty. Chase Brown's your must start. May is, I'm starting May. So that's 2 questions. So May or Stafford, then also start 2 of these other guys. So okay, 3. All right, got you. So 2 of these running backs. So yeah, Chase Brown, and since I got the screen up, we'll go over to the running back spot. Yeah, Chase Brown has no one to contend with. We know with Monty, he's basically going to get 15 points, right? It's a pretty decent floor. I believe he's at, so 14 for Montgomery. And the guy who makes these rankings, he'll be on the show Tuesday, Dynasty Stock Market. 24 for Stevenson. In this spot, because I don't expect the Patriots to be leading, I think they will not be running the ball as much. I already had a show doing the game predictions this week. And I do expect the Jags to be just running the clock, getting the clock ran out on them by Montgomery and Gibbs. So I'm going with Chase Brown as my first flex or running back, whichever, and then Monty. And then for the quarterbacks, I'm going May just for the rushing upside. But let's take a look at May real quick. May, they've got at 11. And we got Stafford at 21. Yeah, so it looks like they agree with me. But, yeah, I just like May a little bit more. We just know Stafford's floor or max is almost 2 touchdowns. So he'd have to have a huge game. Like, he had a 124-point game. That's great, but he hasn't been amazing this season. And Aiden says, Daniel Smitty, I got a similar room. Yep. I got one similar to that too. I got a lot of May. I actually had to drop Stafford just to take the upside shot on Anthony Richardson when the news found out that he was coming back in the lineup, because I just rather have the upside than be forced to start Stafford. And any injury to any of those guys is over again, which I'm not calling for that, just saying. All right. Yep, traded Chubb away in Dynasty already. Yeah, had to do it. Only got him 1 more left. Okay, pick 1. Flex, PPR, Rico, Estime, Taysom Hill, Ricky Pearsall. All right, appreciate you, Connor. And so a little bit, different positions here. We'll start at running back. Rico was announced as, the for sure starter, but I expect the Cowboys to be trailing in that game on Monday night. Where do they have Rico down? They got him at 26. And then Estime was just recently named a starter. Or excuse me, he had 14 carries to Javonte Williams 1. I don't know if that is the starter, but they just said he's going to get more work. That looks like the starter to me. We'll see if he takes the first snap. But anyway, it was only 54 yards. Estimate got. It wasn't anything amazing. Still, they're in a much more competent offense. So right now, Rico's last out of these 2, even though I have seen more from Rico and it's been more steady. He just, we lost Dak. We're losing a lot of faith here, and they're going to have to pass. Whereas the Broncos could actually have a chance to be leading. But where did they have Estime? They've got him at 28. and I expect them to. I picked Atlanta to win, but Vegas has Denver winning this game. So if Vegas is right, who you should trust more than me probably, then they have it where okay, the Denver Broncos they'll probably have the lead. Maybe they're able to run the clock. But I've got Atlanta winning for what it's worth. Anyway, Taysom Hill. I like Taysom because there's just no one else. It's Kamara and Taysom Hill. That's it. That's the offense. So Hill's a decent play. You don't know what you're going to get. Don't think anyone that is doing these shows knows what Taysom Hill is going to score week to week. No one does. And then Ricky Pearsall had a nice touchdown this past week. Juwan Jennings still looks like maybe they would go with him over the other guy, but with George Kittle out, I'm going to take Ricky Pearsall, and I'm going to take. I'll go with. I'll go with Estimate here because with the player profiler team, we're predicting Estimate gets a touchdown this week. But for what it's worth, they've officially got Dowdle 2 spots ahead of Estimate. But I'm definitely firing up Pearsall with no George Kittle. And let's move on. But let's see where I just want to see where they have Pearsall here. They've got him at 47. I don't know how adjusted that is for George Kittle being out because now they're not going to be able to go in that same 2 tight end set. Okay, so now we've got Lamb, Shakir, Reed, Jennings, or Tillman. Which should I pick? Also swap on out for Cooks in my flex. Should I swap one out for Cooks? Okay, so let's start with Shakir. I'm good with starting Shakir. We haven't gotten the news on Mark Cooper, I don't believe, because that's a 4:00 window game. If Cooper doesn't play, then Shakir for sure. But honestly, Shakir has a floor of about 10, 11 points, just for what it's worth. But you got Lamb here. You got so many options, so you don't have to worry about him. But that's a nice flex piece there. We had the Lamb versus Tillman question earlier. I'm good with Lamb, Tillman. If you just have to pick 2, I like Reed as my third there. Jennings could have a good game with no Kittle, but I'm gonna go with my top 3 would be Lamb, Reed, Tillman, and then to whittle it down, I'll keep Lamb in, and I'll go with Tillman here for you, but I believe Reed is definitely ranked higher in this spot. 26. Nope, Tillman's 1 ahead of Reed, so they agree with me here. It's just the Chicago matchup. That's really all it is. Tough defense, and there's just so many options for them to spread around. Both these guys have other targets, but I'm good with Tillman and Lamb in that spot. And then should I swap one out for Cooks? I'll just say no. All right, cool. All right, only 20 minutes left, so good luck, everybody. Again, we'll have Evan Ringler on the show Tuesday, Dynasty Stock Market. He's a guy who's putting a lot of the stats behind the stats we're looking at here. In the projections, we'll get an idea of how those are made. Get his bad beat and closest win of the week. All right, let's see. You got a question here. Cooper, Watson, Worthy, pick 2. Well, Amari Cooper may not play. No, Cooper. It can't be Cooper Kupp. So yeah, Amari Cooper may not play. Watson's just been okay, but they're just. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to start watching. I was looking at maybe. I feel like you should pick him up. I just know it won't be consistent, so it's hard to ever start him if you do pick him up. So anyway, Worthy. Let's see what Evan Ringler and the guys got over here on Player Profile. This is a tough one. I would play Cooper if he's playing because no one else is really healthy except for Shakir. We just don't know if Cooper's playing. But the Worthy and Cooper both. Let's see. They're both in this same window of time, so you'll have time to decide between Worthy, who's on the Chiefs, and Cooper, who's in that same game against them. So you'll have a little bit of time to decide between those two at least. And it was, yeah, with the bye week, it's rough for sure. Yeah, Christian Watson's in this. Um, what's his game? Okay, so the Bears game. Yeah, I think I'll pass on Watson. So I would be fine just playing these two, Cooper and Worthy. Watson, I think his last game had like 8 points, but I just don't see the huge upside. Chicago's got a really good defense. So, yeah, go ahead and rock with those two in that same game. That'd be a nice little shootout. It could be awesome if they both get a touchdown for you. We just have not seen it from Watson this season. So let's see what the totals are, because a lot of times that'll at least give you an idea of what game's supposed to be projected for more points. But I'm going to assume the Chiefs is higher because they're looking at like a rivalry matchup. 46 over under for the Chiefs, Bills, 40 for the Packers. So yeah, I would just go with the game where they're projected to score a full touchdown more than the other game, which is this Chiefs Bills game. That one extra touchdown could be for either Worthy or Cooper in this spot. So boom, go with that. Worthy and Cooper in that spot. So I'm gonna have to hop off here so I can set my lineup here in a second. I think we got through most of the receivers. I didn't mention DJ Moore. I want to see a bounce back from him. Jameson Williams, I mentioned offhand because Laporta was going to be out. Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte are the top receivers for the New England team here. I want to see a bounce back from Waddle. Not a tough matchup. We've got Ice Cold OG in the chat. What's going on, everybody? Appreciate everybody jumping in here. Like and subscribe to Dynasty Football Key. Help me out trying to get to 400 subscribers. And these stats from Player Profiler, the person who is behind the stats, one of the people on the team, Evan Ringler, who'll be on the show on Tuesday, Dynasty Stock Market. So check back in then and we can find out what goes into a lot of these decisions. All right. Chase Brown, Shakir, or Jennings in the flex. Chase Brown, lock it in. This guy's not only the only guy there, he's getting a ton of targets. 9 catches in that last game. Not efficient as a rusher, so keep that in mind. But with no competition, this is a volume thing, and that's how running backs win, with volume. And they're a team that will score points, so he can fall into touchdowns left and right. So good luck, but lock him in with confidence. Even if Cooper doesn't play and Shakir looks like the start, it doesn't matter. Chase Brown, Jennings, all three of these guys are in great spots. I'm starting Chase Brown with confidence over them. But I can quickly show where they've got the projections for Chase Brown. And it's not really about him being at 11, which is high, but 17.7 for Chase Brown. Maybe I just search Shakir here. They've got a 16, but 15.7. So 17.7 versus 15.7. So that's the big difference there. Jennings, they've got a 12.7. But yeah, that's a locked in Chase Brown. And again, in those type of spots, if it's ever really, really close for you, 48 point total is even higher than that Chiefs game. This is the highest projected point total of the week. Ravens game's at 48. This is Bengals is 48.5. So it's tied with the Seahawks game, but still, that's very high. So that means there's going to be touchdowns. And Vegas does have them projected to be losing this game. So maybe it is more of a shootout versus the Bengals just being in the lead and being able to run all over them. But again, like I said, Brown was getting those passes dumped off to him. So it's not like they're going to be asking him to run the ball in obvious rundown situations. Even in pass situations, they're going to be using Chase Brown. And Shakir, this should be a shootout. I'm excited for that Chiefs game. This is a great slate of games this week. Starting off with the division games here. Packers, Bears. I love that Steelers, Ravens game. Chiefs, Bills in the afternoon with the Niners and Seahawks. Texas showdown here on Monday, and yeah, and even Thursday night was nice. So, all right, that was the receivers, and just I'll go to the tight ends in a second, but because there is defense on here, and we did get defensive questions, I'll just show what they've got. Vikings at 1 versus Tennessee, Texans versus Dallas. If you need a late second defense, take a look and see if any of these are available. I've seen some leagues where Lions were available, Texans were available. I did drop Jets before the Anthony Richardson starting announcement happened in the league, but that's because I had Vikings and Packers. Bears versus Green Bay. I don't like that. And I don't like the Saints here. So it's looking like there's a bit of a drop off. Titans are good, but I just don't love this matchup. It's just that Darnold threw the 3 picks last week. Dolphins, yeah, they're good. And Raiders don't have much going there. Rams was one of the questions earlier. They've got them top 10 here. Niners have fallen off a bit, but when you've got McCaffrey back, it does help balance the offense more, but maybe not this week because George Kittle's out. Like when they're at full strength, the defense they're just so fresh and barely have to play. They can just slow play the clock and all that stuff. Eagles looking like a top 5 defense, but they already played. Broncos, it's kind of a tough matchup, but still good there. So yeah, you can just take a look at those. Any of them after here, you're probably not starting any of these this week. And again, make sure to look ahead. If you got bye weeks and there's someone that you're absolutely not going to play, but they play on bye next week and they're not an essential player, like maybe they're just a bye week filler for this week or whatever, look ahead if you got to make a drop or something like that. I'm not going to call out the kickers here, but there you go. No one really knows what's going to happen. And so we'll just finish on the tight end spot. If you got any other final questions, 12 minutes before kickoff, let me know. Kelsey's back to the tight end 1 in these rankings. And they've been using them heavy, so I'm not going to hate on that. But Brock Bowers, we've already predicted he's going to end the season as a tight end 1. So he's got a lot of work to do. And now that George Kittle's out, the path is opening up. So could be a race between Kittle, Kelsey, and Bowers. Ingram's going to be a top target in his offense here. It's just lesser pass target accuracy and quality. But the target amount, the volume was still there in this past game. Njoku, the volume has increased recently. They got the bye to figure things out with Jameis Winston. So I like this top 4 really like most of the season. We'll have George Kittle in the top 5 when he gets healthy. It's been up or down for Henry, rookie quarterback. It is what it is. And yeah, Jonnu Smith, 6 overall, they've got ranked. Gesicki again this week? No. Because Gesicki has a correlation of when T. Higgins is in, Gesicki's not used by the Bengals much at all. And then when Higgins is out, they use Gesicki a ton. So Higgins is in this week. So for our lineups, I'm taking Gesicki out. He had some games earlier this season where they were, a toe away from being bigger point games, even with Higgins. But yeah, overall it just hasn't hit with Higgins in the lineup. Bryce has JSN or London, then Hopkins or Tillman in another league. So we'll start with this one, JSN or London. I'm starting JSN. London has a tough matchup against the Denver Broncos and Patrick Surtain the second. They've got him at 13 overall, 16-point projection. This is another one I want to ask about, like with Evan, who we'll have on the show Tuesday. Like, how do you factor in that defensive matchup? Surtain is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and I'm downgrading him, but maybe they aren't, and maybe they are. Maybe they would have London much higher if they did, if it was a different matchup. So, but I'm saying JSN in this spot, but they officially have JSN. Let's see, at 30, and that's because DK Metcalf's coming back this week. So it's more about target volume, I would have to think. But for me, I was always waiting for the switch between JSN and Lockett. because Geno's been able to get the ball to multiple receivers. So I'm thinking it's twofold. Where yes, Jason takes a downtick in targets, even though he has had big target games earlier this season with Metcalf in the lineup, but also just a tough defensive matchup with Drake London. Surtain's been limiting opposing wide receivers to sub 10 points all season long, so it's going to be a tough one for Drake London. And then Hopkins or Tillman in the other league. So I will go Tillman because I like the quarterback's pass volume. So, for one, James Winston, 41 passes and 45 passes in those past 2 games. So Winston's going to be able to get it done in the air, throwing it a ton. So go ahead and get Winston, any of those receivers in those lineups. I'm good with Tillman. He's been great. Hopkins has been great too. This is going to be a shootout. All right, but you still got Kelsey who can get the ball. They've been dumping it off to Kareem Hunt as well. I think Hopkins is going to be fine, but I'll go with Tillman in this spot just for the overall volume. All right, and that'll do it. That'll do it for this week. Good luck, everybody. You got 5 minutes to tweak those lineups a little bit more. So go ahead and good luck this week. Hopefully everybody gets those wins. And this has been the Dynasty Football Key. We'll be back tomorrow and Monday and Tuesday. We'll have Evan Ringler, the guy who's behind those stats, on the Dynasty stock market with me and Biggs, going over some of how the rankings are made, as well as some of his bad beats, good beats for the weekend, and some of his matchups. So good luck, everybody, and I'll catch you in the next video.